Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calwas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker, who is going to talk about insights on redesigning teaching and assessments in the light of ChatGPT and other AI technologies. Today, we will be exploring the ways in which artificial intelligence technologies like ChatGPT are revolutionizing the way we teach and assess the student learning. With AI, we have access to powerful tools that can help us to personalize learning, provide real time feedback, and more accurately measure student progress. So, in this session, we will hear from the expert in the field who will share his insights and experiences with using the AI in education. We hope that by the end of this session, you will be able to have a better understanding regarding the AI technologies and its implication in the classroom as well. So, indeed, a very interesting topic, and I'm sure you will learn a lot in this session. So, stay tuned because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So, before we start, I would like to thank Kalwas for arranging such enlightening sessions, for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Kalwas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences, recommendations, and suggestions, which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually, as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have a wonderful person as guest, a multi-dynamic person having a wonderful experience and exposures, particularly passion for technology and its adaptation in teaching. A well-known speaker, a great human being, and who is always ready to contribute and share his knowledge on different platforms. So let me introduce him formally. He is a distinguished lecturer from Sunway Business School with a passion for using technology to enhance teaching and learning experiences. He is not only qualified in law and teaching and learning, but he is also an early adopter to innovative technology in education. Uh, his sessions are engaging for all participants. Moreover, he has trained directors, managers, executives in the field of law and corporate work. He has also trained numerous academics on how to incorporate technology into their teaching to engage their students actively. In addition to that, currently one of his specialties is the use of ChatGPT. He uses his technology to create formative and summative assessments, it's as well as conduct research, allowing his student to understand, apply, and test their knowledge on the concepts covered in his lectures, training programs, and coaching sessions. In addition to that, being a skilled lecturer, he is a co-author of two books on law for business 2022 and the future of the law contract 2020. He is also pursuing his PhD in management, focusing on contract law at Sunway Business School. Last but not the least, he's a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Shri Bala Murugan. Welcome to the Calvas platform, and thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to have you because we always see you while you contribute and you are doing wonderful job, fantastic job to educate us regarding the chat GPT, which is now a burning topic for all the educationists, particularly regarding to the assessment level. As we were talking before the session, it's a very interesting topic and looking forward to it. So over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you for the introduction, Professor. Very generous and kind words. I'm very humbled to actually be here to share some of the things that I've actually discovered about ChatGPT and how it can be applied in teaching. So in today's 1 hour session, what I generally want to do is to help you understand what is AI. A lot of us, I think, when I speak to colleagues and when I engage with people, the first thing when I talk about AI that comes to mind is the movies that have depicted AI as like in Terminator and iRobot and other such movies where AI has come and destroyed the human race. So, so a bit of general understanding of what is AI will then help us to, accept or at least move towards the process of acceptance of AI in our daily life. Also, I would want to share with you the AI landscape as it is at the moment, and what I share is just a fraction of the AI landscape that we have today. I will also do a brief demonstration on ChatGPT use, and then we can consider some of the upcoming challenges and perhaps consider some of the reflective questions from for further discourse. Okay, so the starting point is that if we go back to 1986, there was a protest on the use of calculators. Some teachers protested on the use of when the calculator actually came out, the scientific calculator actually came out, and of course, they didn't protest the ban of the calculator, but rather what they protested is the use of the calculator for students who are perhaps at the primary stage of education. So what they are saying is that students should have some level of maths before they actually go on to use the calculator for more advanced calculation tasks. I think the way we approach AI in terms of education, especially things like ChatGPT, can be approached from such uh, uh, perspective, because we need to think about when students can or should be able to use the AI in the learning process that they experience with us. Okay, so what is the AI landscape at the moment? Of course, all of us know about ChatGPT, but if we consider the others, these have been around for quite some time. And I think if you're doing research, Quillbot and Grammarly are known to us, especially when we are writing papers and things like that. So, AI is there. It's there in the education side of it. These are some of it. In a larger perspective, AI is already there in other areas such as games, graphics, audio, characters, creating characters, chatbots. So AI is not new. ChatGPT is perhaps a new use or a new perspective on AI, but AI in itself is not new. In fact, if we consider how data is analyzed by social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, AI is working in the background anyway. The only difference that we can see now with ChatGPT is that AI has come to the forefront. That means instead of us interacting with AI in an indirect way, we are interacting with the AI in a more direct fashion. So, what is AI? At the end of the day, when I looked up the meaning of AI from many sources, this particular definition of AI struck with me or resonated with me in the sense that AI is the use of computer algorithms to perform logical tasks and deductions which are otherwise associated with human intelligence. So, AI, as far as what we are seeing now, are just broad based AI. Even ChatGPT, in a sense, is a form of broad based AI, but it is, in another sense, also more advanced than perhaps other forms of AI out there. Types of AI. So if you look at types of AI, and if you look at the AI platform that I shared with you just now, you'll find that the types of AI are rule-based AI. So these are AI that follows a set of predetermined rules. So, for example, I think you would experience this with Grammarly, where there are predetermined set of rules which allow you to make use of Grammarly. So if you want to paraphrase something in a more professional sense, then you would just select that particular button. Or if you want to paraphrase something in a more casual sense, then you would click on that particular button. So those are rule-based AI. They're very narrow in terms of how they are used. Machine learning, that's another form of AI. You have deep learning, and then you have natural language processing, and then at the last bit you have robotics. Now this is also, yeah, under each heading or each type, they then branch out into many subsets. So when we look at ChatGPT is currently here in the natural language processing category. So in that sense, it is a bit more advanced than, let's say, Grammarly, or it's a bit more advanced than Quillbot. So what is ChatGPT? As I mentioned earlier, it's a form of natural language processing AI. It's built using state-of-the-art deep learning architecture, and this thing that we found out is called a transformer, or a generative pre-trained transformer. Now, what happens with a transformer is that they feed it a massive amount of data, text, either from the internet, books, articles, web pages, and this essentially enables it to understand what we are asking, or what we are instructing it to do. So that's basically where ChatGPT stands at the moment. But of course, we cannot deny that the development of ChatGPT is quite fast, because I think they started out in 2021, and then they came up with the version 1 and the version 2, and somewhere last year they came up with the version 3, then it came to 3.5, and then now currently at the moment we have the version 4, which is a bit more precise, but slower in terms of how it generates its responses to our instruction or questions. From that perspective, it's quite fast. The development is quite fast. However, AI in all of these instances, whether they are less advanced than ChatGPT or ChatGPT itself, relies heavily on human input. So without human input, it's not going to go out there and take over the world. So that's the distinction we have to make in terms of AI. AI should always rely on human input in order to get the output that is desired by using it as a tool. So let me just demonstrate how ChatGPT can assist in terms of work. So when you get an account with ChatGPT, right? If you go to the OpenAI website, and then you get an account, and you log into the account, then you will see this as an interface. So it's a very, very simple interface. Now, what I've done is that I have pre-created some demos in order to show how it works. So let's say if you want to write an email, I would, let's say I want to write an email to a student, I would put in very specific instructions to ChatGPT. So like here, I say, write a professional email to a student to inform the student about the following revision areas, make sure to practice questions, seek lecturer, tutor feedback, and at the end, I say all the best in your exams. So when I click on the send button, and then ChatGPT does the email for me. Okay, so you can see that it generated the email in a matter of seconds. So this frees up time, in the sense that it's good in terms of work-related points, because if we take a lot of time drafting a lot of these emails, it takes up valuable time that we would then spend on research, or maybe preparing or designing lecture materials and things like that. So the AI basically does that for you. However, even though the AI has typed the material or typed the email for me, I would still want to check. So this is where we have to consider the point of delegating effort, but not the decision making, not the choice of whether this is what I wanted as an output. So if this is not the output that I wanted, then I would need to change the instructions that are given previously. So if I click on this button here, I can amend the instructions as I wish. So if, let's say, I don't want this particular point, I just delete it, make the changes, then I save and submit. And then it retypes the email again. So this is a very important thing in terms of using AI, which we also have to impart to our students, because they're going to use it regardless. It's a matter of time before they get curious enough to use it, that they should not delegate their choice. They should not delegate the accountability of the output. They should not delegate their decision making. What they're delegating is the effort in phrasing it in the proper way. But of course, we have to then decide which level of students who should be using this. Okay, so that's an email. So what happens then is that at the side, whatever chat that you create will appear here. It'll be stored. Now, all of this is still in the beta phase. It's still testing phase. It's still trial stage. So it's sometimes what is stored at the side here, your previous chats, can disappear because they're updating the system, or there's a problem or there's a technical issue with the system. It can disappear. Sometimes you get it back, sometimes you don't. Now, so this will fill up as you use the ChatGPT. Now, if you don't want the old chats, you can always delete them. So you just click on the trash can icon, and then you just click on the tick, and then it's gone. Another use that I found is in terms of notes. So again, it's based on the instruction I give. So let's say this is the instruction I'm giving it, and then I'm putting in a sample of my notes. So this is a short sample of my notes, and I click it. So then it creates for me with headings and all these other parts of it. But again, if you notice, I didn't include things related to the legal profession. This is not a point that is actually found in the notes that I've inputted, or the data that I've given it. So it comes out as extra. So this also shows you that you have to be careful when you're using ChatGPT. Another point to note is that if a person is not a subject matter expert and they use ChatGPT and they rely on its output, then that can be quite dangerous, or that can be quite problematic, because you're relying on the AI knowledge. ChatGPT's knowledge is only limited up to 2021. So a lot of this updated information or knowledge, you really have to make sure whether what it has given you is correct. So this is why one of the emphasis is that a person must be a subject matter expert. ChatGPT is not a one-stop solution for everything. It has a lot of limitations. And I think we shouldn't look at the limitations as a bad thing. The limitations are actually good things, because since there is limitation, it means that human input cannot be excluded. So that's the good thing, that the limitations actually justify a subject matter expert, a human being, interacting with the AI. So that's important. So again, with whatever output, we have to decide whether it is what we want. If not, then we have to tell the AI to change, or make changes. Okay, so let me just remove this part. All right. So this is how perhaps some of our students may use ChatGPT. This is a question that I took from Cambridge A levels. It's a past year question for the 2014 Cambridge A levels paper. So I'm telling it, okay, create an answer for the question presented below. So this is the question. So let's see what it comes up with. So this is what a lot of educators are being concerned about, that ChatGPT can do this for the students. However, if once you get an account and once you run trial and error uh, or experiment with the use of ChatGPT, you will find that a lot of these answers is generally correct, but they are not specifically accurate. If you notice, the answer doesn't have references to case study. The answer doesn't have references to exact statistics. It gives you a general answer based on its knowledge. And the other thing is that if it doesn't know the answer, it will make up a fictional answer. So, for example, I cannot tell ChatGPT to go and search on the web. With the platform alone, you won't be able to do that. So if you get, let's say, a web address, sometimes it might be correct if it's a web address is still there. However, if there are changes to that web address, then you will find that it is actually fictional. When you put in the link in the search box in Google or whatever, you might not find the website at all. The same thing goes with references. If you ask ChatGPT to give you a reference for all this and it doesn't know, it's going to give you fictional references that may look authentic, but they are not. They are not true. They are actually false. So this is the danger for students, in the sense that they may rely on this to create the answer, but they may not realize that what is created is just generally correct, but specifically it is not accurate. It might not specifically hit the student learning outcome. It might generally hit the student learning outcome. So that, what does that show? That shows that as far as marking is concerned, or as far as setting assessment is concerned, there are some changes that we need to make. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Okay, now that you've seen what ChatGPT can do, these are some of the upcoming challenges that perhaps as educators we need to address or face. Sometimes it will require technical challenges, upskilling on AI software, perhaps, and skills. One of the things that relate to ChatGPT is coding. So maybe as educators, we need to also upskill ourselves in terms of coding where that is relevant. There are ethical considerations as well, such as privacy, data security, and bias. The AI does not know about good and bad. It just gives you an output based on what you ask. However, the AI also has been programmed in terms of ethical parameters. So this is changing. This is changing from time to time. When I started using ChatGPT in December last year, the things that it could give as an output are very different from the things that it's giving today. Today, sometimes some questions you ask, it will just say these are against my ethical parameters or ethical standards, or I cannot answer this question. So there are ethical considerations or questions that has to be raised, and this is a new area. So with sharing sessions like this, webinars and all, what is important is for us to start the conversation in terms of, if we are using it, we are embracing it, then how do we deal with these ethical questions? Or maybe the issue might even be what ethical questions to raise, because this is something that is new in terms of how AI is operating in the forefront. Pedagogical challenges. We need to rethink our pedagogical approach and teaching methods, that's for sure. Maybe it's not for all subjects. When I spoke to a colleague of mine who teaches statistics, he says the outputs from ChatGPT are not that accurate for statistics. But currently, there's development in terms of integrating ChatGPT with maths related platforms like Wolfram. That's the recent one that I've read so far. So it might get better. And if it does get better, then the question is, how do we uh, set our assessments? How do we go about teaching the students in terms of our subject matter area? Other challenges could be resource challenges such as funding, time, personnel, training. Of course, now a lot of people are undergoing a lot of training in terms of using ChatGPT. At the Sunway Business School, I've just finished, I think, last week on training 30 colleagues, fellow colleagues, on the use of ChatGPT. And during the sessions, we also considered questions on ethics. We considered questions on how assessments can be, new assessments can be developed in terms of ChatGPT. Assessment challenges, of course, that one is a given, but because of our we have to go through pedagogical change. New approaches to assessment, such as the use of AI-powered assessments, perhaps in the future. And at the moment, I think it's more about how do we integrate the AI into our teaching process, our grading process. Can it be done? And if it does, given that ChatGPT sometimes does not give reliable answers, can we then use it for grading? Or can we upskill ourselves in terms of how we create the instructions and how we train the AI in terms of our work? So these are some reflection points that are gathered. The AI has potential to revolutionize education by providing personalized learning experiences and supporting educators. But how do we balance use with ethical considerations? So this is not answered, or maybe there are answers somewhere, but it's fragmented. How do we integrate AI into teaching systems and design something that would be fair, equitable, and beneficial to all learners? One thing that strikes me in terms of technology is perhaps not every learner has access to technology. So, which means that learners who have access to technology and AI, their learning process and experience will be very different, and they might progress faster than those who might not have access to technology, and their learning experiences might be very different. What would be good rules and guidelines for the use of AI to enhance human learning? Now, we know that AI is not as what we envision in the movies, but that doesn't mean we cannot come up with rules. I think there's a lot of discussion and a lot of discourse to be had in wherever we are from in terms of our teaching, research, and our interaction with the students. So how do we develop these rules? So this is something that we need to talk, discuss, collaborate, and perhaps we can come up with a framework in terms of the guidelines. But at the moment, I think it is where it can start is wherever we are in terms of our institutions, to seek to create the discourse, to seek to create perhaps committees to sit down and come up with the rules for to teach the students how to use the AI. They shouldn't be using the AI to deprive themselves of knowledge in the subject, because if they do that, then in the future they are going to use the AI in a very negligent and unethical manner. It can also perhaps create problems for them. But If they can use the AI with our guidance and develop their knowledge even further than what they could have developed before, then when they go out there, they are going to be more productive, more efficient in terms of the tasks that they do, in terms of the work that they do. And perhaps maybe they may even come up with solutions to problems in society and contribute even further. AI doesn't see, um, it doesn't differentiate between concepts, I mean, ideas per se. Now, what do I mean by that? Um, an AI doesn't know how a person feels, perhaps, about their own personal values. It just sees personal values as data. So, which means that what we need to come up with is shared values that can be integrated into the AI system so that the AI can be more fair in terms of its output. It can have less bias in terms of its output. With ChatGPT, what I foresee is that it's no longer a luxury controlled by perhaps private companies. AI is there, it's in the forefront, it's open for us to use. So if we, by embracing it, we can see its limitations and we can then consider how it should be used in specific industries. In essence, we are trying to create these boundaries. But these boundaries are not something that is built into the AI, but it built into the human value system where as a person, I know I should only use the AI for X and not Y. So these questions have very few, if any, answers. But that is not a bad thing, because the way I see it is that when there are no answers, it's an opportunity for us to find some. It's an opportunity for us to ideate solutions, policies, guidelines for further improvements. And perhaps some of these solutions may be adopted by the service providers of AI. So these are things that we need to discuss further, um, and bring all our thought process and our creativity and our expertise into the discussion. So, okay, so that's a very brief sharing that I had for today. But let's take some questions and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Really, indeed, wonderful explanation, and what a powerful reflection you have given on this subject. And I love the way you started it from giving the example of Terminator and the movies that mostly we are influenced, are impacted by these kind of movies and film that we see the Terminator and all these things, how it is going to impact us. And then very nicely you have talked about what is AI, what is the types of AI, and how it is impacting on different industries. And we are using it and we are part of it as well. And I love your phrases, wonderful phrases you have used. Yes, chat gpt is something it is not something new, but it is the AI is not something new, we are using it, but it is the new approach towards it. And similarly, when you were discussing about the students, I love your perspective that everyone does not have access to AI as well, the internet as well. So there would be a difference between the student who are using these kind of AI and who are not using. So there will be a difference, and we as a faculty member need to understand, and we need to come up with the uh, solution for that kind of problem, that how we are going to have a balance in the classroom to manage all these kind of things. And your reflection were so wonderful that so many questions which we had received already in the chat bar as well as through email, you have already answered it, because it was so great. And I love your that part of ethical, that the data storage, that privacy, because most of the question which we received was regarding the same thing, that what are the ethical implications, and then how we can be more concerned regarding the data privacy, because everything is now online, and we are concerned that whether our data will be taken from us and will be shared through ChatGPT or not. So these kind of things are very interesting. But since we have so many questions, but we will shortlist few questions and we will have your illustration, and you please enlighten us on the different things. So should we start with the first question, please?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have one Dr. Mansoor Ali, and he has given a wonderful question, and that needs your recommendation and suggestion. And it says that does ChatGPT replace researchers in writing thesis or research paper? If yes, then how? If not, then why? And how can it be more beneficial? Yes, please.
Well, AI or ChatGPT at the moment, I don't think it will replace a researcher in writing a research paper. It may assist, but I don't think it will replace. The AI is like a tool to me, at least to my understanding. It is basically a tool that you use to evaluate a massive amount of data that perhaps might be difficult if you were to do it manually, or if you were to do it how people did it maybe 100 years ago. um, if we look at ChatGPT and we use it like how we use NVivo, SPSS, and all these other softwares that helps us in our research writing, then I think AI can help us a lot in terms of simulating ideas, or perhaps testing out an idea that we have. And that's the major difference between AI and us as human beings, because we look at the world, we interact with the world, and we develop a model of how the world, works. And then we think of, hey, should it be different? Should it work in a better way? Or and yes, I think in a sense, if you ask the AI to say, should the world work in a different way, the answers it gives are more on, number one, the data it has, and it's more on statistical efficiency. It might not take into account things like values, things like culture, things like heritage, right? Unless the AI is programmed in terms of this information. But even if it's programmed in terms of this information, how does it come up with new ideas? We as human beings, whether we are researchers or scientists, we look at something and we want to solve that problem. But at the same time, we also try to make sure that the solution is, in a way, aligns with our personal values, our culture, our heritage, our background. So that is not something that the AI can do at the moment. Maybe in 100 years, when AI is fully interacting with the world, perhaps, but not now. Not at the stage that it is in. At least that's what I observe from what I've read and seen so far.
Yes, wonderful answer to this question. Really, human is not replaceable by the AI, and very nicely you have quoted the idea generation, all these things. Human are particularly because we critically think, and then we come up with the imagination power, and we have wonderful understanding of conducting a research. So it is very difficult to replace us, and this is what you have mentioned in your presentation as well, that the information in the chat gpt is sometimes incorrect, even the links are not incorrect, so we cannot rely on it that it will be doing. But I loved your phrase again, that you use that you said it is just a tool and we have to use it. So that tool is for to benefit you, to facilitate you, but it cannot do things for you. So very nice answer to this. And one another question from the Dr. Imran, and he wants to ask, as you mentioned, that the ChatGPT has access till 2021 data. So he wants to ask that what if ChatGPT updated from 2021 to 2023? What is the implication, and particularly for the education industry? Yes, please.
I think, okay. So from what I know, and I'm not an expert on machine learning, yet, unless I take it. I think it will function the same way. If it is updated with data from 2021 to 2023, then it would have those data. But again, I think the idea behind the question is, would it make assessments uh, uh, redundant? I don't think so. But even with current assessments, I think we need to change the way they work. So if let's say for law, if I'm looking at from a law subject perspective, because that's what I teach, um, if I make the assessment just fully on recall, then or memory, then of course it becomes redundant because students can get that information from ChatGPT to an extent. But if I make the assessment something interesting for them or challenging for them to do, which they would not be able to do otherwise, but with the help of the I think it would make a difference in terms of the assessments thing still being valid in the circumstance. So it's about how do we change. That's the reason why I said there's a lot of discourse and collaboration opportunity in terms of this in the education industry, because there's no one answer to the question. So, for example, with the training that I did last week, the English language department said, well, we used to give them a scenario and ask them, we typed out the scenario and then we asked them to write an essay about it. But looking at some limitations with ChatGPT, so now they said maybe we should change to pictures. So we give them a provocative or a reflective kind of a picture and ask them to write about what they see and describe. And so it still will test the language, it still meets the student learning outcomes, but the mode of assessment has changed. Delivery may change. Maybe we, for some assessments, we need to have it as written exams so that students are able to show their subject knowledge instead of having it online. But again, whether that is a solution or not really depends on how many students you have. Is it a large group, a small group, and there's so many other factors that needs to be considered.
Yes, very true, very nice. And you are giving wonderful illustration to it. I was just thinking how great it would be when you will be delivering a lecture in the classroom and students will be interacting and having a wonderful discussion with you. A wonderful command you have on the subject. Thank you very much. And there is one another question by the Dr. Imran again, and he wants to ask that is there any way we can detect whether the students have taken data for their assignments and project through ChatGPT, etc.? Yes, please.
Currently, if let's say a student has used the AI in order to do their assessment, and if it is let's say an assignment that is uploaded online, and if it is within 1500 words, you can copy and paste the uh, assessment into ChatGPT and then ask ChatGPT to um, identify parts of it that is done by AI. You cannot ask whether ChatGPT did it, but you can ask whether what is the likelihood of this assessment being done by an AI. So that's one way. Turnitin, they are developing new features to their service in order to have AI detection as a feature in the Turnitin service. I think that would come out in a short period of time. I don't know when, but it should come out within this year from their blog post. But the problem is that when we try to detect, there is also concern whether these are false positives, which means that it may look like AI has done the work, but uh, it could also be that the student has done the work. So, what if you go to the Turnitin website, and what they suggest is, if you suspect that the work is done by AI, then to have a conversation with the student first before punishing the student, so they get more information, in terms of talking to the student. But can we detect? Do we have a detector that is 100% accurate? The answer is no. At the moment, at where it is now, whether it will be the same in 2-3 months, we don't know. Uh, However, that's another reason why perhaps we need to rethink the way we assess and rethink the way we embrace AI into our teaching, our delivery, and our assessments as well.
Yes, very nicely once again given the answer. And yes, at the moment we are not sure whether the work is done by the student or the AI, but time will reveal whether we will come up with a certain kind of softwares which will be able to detect it. Again, it depends on the future. But now you have given a wonderful suggestion that you can ask the student and have a discussion with them that whether they have done by themselves or they have taken the help of the simple AI. As dear sir, we were discussing before the session that we have received a lot of question on the other approach as well. So I would like to have your opinion on the other perspective of the chat GPT that we received a lot of comment as well as the questions regarding that why we are taking the chat GPT as a threat. So there is one another comment by the professor. They say that we should consider technologies as educators, companions rather than threat. Why we are only considering as a threat? We must have the understanding that it is a tool and we can use it in either side. So it's a double-edged sword. We can use it in a positive and negative. So we need to draw the limitations for that. So that brings to the another question, which is similar attached to this one and would like to have your opinion on both of the questions. The second question is then please share your opinion on the revision of the policy and instruction that how can we revise our policy of exam as well as the assignments on and the other teaching assessments. So what do you recommend in terms of for the policy maker and why we are taking it in negative way as well? Yes, please.
Okay, let me address the negative aspect first. I think, um, just like with every technological advancement, there is a bit of resistance, but eventually it becomes part of daily life. So the example that I would like to say is like Grab and Uber. When Grab and Uber was introduced, there were a lot of policy challenges, regulation challenges, because a lot of regulation and policy dealt with public transport in the sense of taxis. But when Grab and Uber were introduced into the market, and if you ask them, "Are you a taxi?" They say, "No, I'm not a taxi service. I'm just a technology company that has an app that is connecting between someone who drives a car and someone who is willing to share the drive with that person." So they operated outside of regulation, which is in a sense what ChatGPT is doing now. Um, but eventually we figured out how they operate, what is their business model, and then we were able to regulate that. That's one aspect. So yeah, regulation and policy would come. What kind of change and regulation and policy, that is dependent on perhaps the jurisdiction, depends on the laws for that particular jurisdiction. So I can't say for certain what exactly the change would be. I guess we have to look at policy in terms of, generally, but we have to look at it in terms of embracing it, because resisting it, it's not going to go away. So, for example, in countries where Uber and Grab, even though there was a lot of resistance, today it's part of daily life. In most countries, people don't say they take a taxi; they say, "I Grab, I Uber." It's already there. It's taken root. Of course, they are more regulated now. So, what kind of policies can we come up with? Definitely not to ban it, but how do we control it? So that's the policy perspective that perhaps works. How can we coexist with the AI use in our life? Looking at how it is helpful to us as educators and students is just one facet of AI. AI will also be very useful in terms of when people go out and work in other sectors as well. So it's not going to go away. So rather than saying, no, I'm going to resist, it's better to say, okay, let me embrace it, let me learn about it, let me find out where it works well and where it doesn't, and let me regulate it.
Wow, sir, once again, and the way you are giving answer is wonderful. And since we have the time limitation, otherwise we have a list of questions for you because you are the expert and you conduct trainings regarding these kind of technologies, particularly AI and the Chat GPT. And the more we talk about it, the more we are going to enjoy and learn a lot from your wonderful experiences. And you are giving wonderful suggestion as well. But as I mentioned, because of the time constraint, so we will take one last question, and this is also the one of the concern of the a lot of students and the researchers, faculty, and they want to ask that, sir, please share your opinion that how do you see the role of Chat GPT in our culture? Don't you think the Chat GPT will be integrated in our culture soon that we will not be able to live without Chat GPT AI? Yes, please. Very nice
Well,
question.
I think with any other technology, yes, it would. I think it would be part and parcel of our culture. I don't know whether it will be part and parcel of our value system, but definitely in terms of use, it will be there. It's just like the internet. We Perhaps when the internet came out, there were some that were resistant to it. But today, the internet is a part and parcel of our life. And just as we were discussing before the start of the presentation, the internet has changed the way we learn. It has changed the way we find information, and of course, this will change. I think one of the things about ChatGPT is its ability to create information to an extent, and of course, it has the potential to create fictional information. So this is where, so I suppose we have to evolve our thinking in terms of being very critical about information we receive, and to have a sort of guidelines in order to judge whether the information that we are consuming is true or not true or fiction in that sense. So definitely our criticality of information, our critical thinking, the way we process information and content, this will have to perhaps take a paradigm shift. What kind of paradigm shift? It's uncertain at the moment because there's not enough discussion going on. So I guess as we discuss more and we use it more and we find what works and what doesn't, then we will be able to make the relevant rules and guidelines in terms of how it integrates into our culture.
Yes, once again, wonderful answer to this question as well. That we are not sure about the value system, but taking the help from the AI and particularly ChatGPT is something now the students are doing more, and even the faculty member they are using it for, as you have demonstrated in your presentation, that generating the email to inform the class, or the things like that. for which it is the positive side of the chat gpt, and we should be using it for these kind of activities. But again, time will reveal that how much it will inculcate in our culture, and how we will be more inclined towards usage. And you have given wonderful example of the internet as well, that as we were discussing before the start of the session, that yes, internet has changed our life, and now it's up to us that whether we use it for our positive development, or we can use it for negative. So really wonderful, dear sir. What a great session you have given. What a wonderful and powerful insights you have given. I loved your presentation. I love your content, the way you just demonstrate it. And I know that you are a technological specialist, so that's why you were shifting around the slides and the screen so nicely that even you were not feeling anything like that. And you have demonstrated very well. And I know that the audience around the globe, they would have learned a lot from your wonderful insights. So, dear sir, at the end of the session, we ask our each guest regarding their message to the world. So, what is your message to the world as a speaker, author, teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator? Yes, please.
I think my message would be to embrace it, and but at the same time, um, to create a lot of discussion about it, not just in terms of papers, but in terms of um, within faculties, to address um, how students are using it, to guide students how to use it, and see how it can help us become better and more proficient in terms of our work.
Yes, very nice. A wonderful message you have given to the world. And to the audience, do follow our distinguished guest speaker through his research work, and you can email him for future learning and guidance. You can read his work, and he is always there to help you, and he's very generous. That's all we have time for today. And thank you once again to our respected guest speaker, Shri Bala Murugan. And I would like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional questions about information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through his email or social media account. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way, and please do not miss any session. Until next session, take care.